I was at the store yesterday and I bought 3 pounds of honey. Why? Because I want to try this thing they call Mead. Hi, I'm Charles and welcome to DIY Fermentation, your site for doing fermentation on a shoestring budget. To make my very first Mead, I'm going to be using the following ingredients. I'm going to be using 3 pounds of orange blossom 100% raw honey. I'm going to be using Red Star Premier Rouge wine yeast, alcohol tolerance of between 14 and 16%. Handful of raisins, probably chopped up to a gallon of water. Everything, of course, has been sanitized using Star San. Jar, jug, demijohn, carboy, take your pick, to do fermentation in. Airlock with stopper, and hydrometer to determine the amount of alcohol content that's going to be in the wine. Very first thing we want to do is take a handful of raisins and give those a rough chop. And put that to the side. I've got my honey sitting in some hot water. It's not boiling hot or anything like that. I just want to get the honey soft so it will pour easily from the bottle to the funnel. And I've also warmed up my remaining water so that when I mix the two together, they'll mix up fairly easily. The process of getting it into the bottle is as follows. Grab one. I'm going to take the cap off because squeezing it is not going to make it any faster. Now I am going to use some of that warm water I've got sitting over there to rinse out this honey because I don't want to waste any of it. And what you're not going to see is me off camera filling up these little bottles and rinsing out the honey and making sure that those get into the jug, jar, demijohn, carboy, take your pick, so that we can move on. Let's go ahead and add some of our water in. This would be a good time to do it. About halfway. And let's go ahead and dump in our raisins. Let's go ahead and put our cap back on. And let's begin shaking this up. Let's get some air incorporated in there. Let's dissolve all of that honey. Let's go ahead and bring our water level up. I'm not going to fill this up to the top because I don't know how much fermentation is going to occur during primary fermentation. So I want to leave enough headspace where it's got room to work with. Normally, whenever I've pitched my yeast, you've seen me just go ahead and just sprinkle the yeast directly into the carboy. This time around, I am going to bloom the yeast. Pour off a little bit. And take our 1/4 teaspoon of yeast and just add that. Also, while we're waiting, we may as well take a gravity reading. Ooh, okay. And let's see what we got here. Looks like we're going to have a gravity reading of 1.106 as our starting point. Going to give our yeast just a little bit of time, about a minute or two, until we start seeing it to bloom, and then we'll go ahead and add that to our container. I wish I had my camera on while this yeast was blooming, because what it looked like was little explosions of yeast going off inside the little bowl. Wow, I just caught it out the corner of my eye and saw and watched it, and it was actually pretty interesting. But I'm going to go ahead and add that yeast to our musk. I'm going to put the cap back on it, and I'm going to give it one last good shake off camera. So just give me a moment. All right, take the cap off, take our airlock, put that in. All right. There we go. What's going to happen is that for the next 3 days, I'm probably going to give it a good little shake. And after that, maybe a swirl or two for the next week until primary fermentation is just about done. Go ahead and rack it into our secondary and wait for it to complete secondary and come of age. There we go. I've made my first mead. All right. Okay, roughly 7 months ago, I decided to go ahead and try my hand at making something called mead. Never really heard of it before, and then when I started looking into it, began realizing that, wait a minute, it uses honey instead of sugar. Honey costs how much? I don't think I'll be making that anytime soon. But I scraped together the funds and decided to buy enough honey to go ahead and give this a shot. Needless to say, this is the result of 7 months of effort. Going to give it a shot, see what it tastes like. Got everything I need to go ahead and get the process started. The wine, the mead, has been back sweetened. I think that was about 3-4 weeks ago. There was no change in the hydrometer reading before I bottled it, so I know that fermentation has, for the most part, been completed. It was bottled last night, as a matter of fact. I decided I didn't really need to put a label on it, and I really didn't need to actually cork it. But I decided, well, why not? Since that's what I do for all of my wines and now meads, go ahead and give it a shot. Besides, I can reuse this bottle for something else I need to bottle later on this week. Let's go ahead and get it going. Let's move that out the way. I don't see any bubbling or effervescence or anything else which would signify that I did not degas this properly. Well, now that I've got a new proper degassing wine, I don't really think that's going to be an issue anymore. But there we go. In terms of overall color, this bad boy is definitely hazy. There's no doubt about that. Of course, being bottled last night, there's no sediment on the bottom, which is always a good thing. The wine, the orange blossom honey that was used, created an ABV of 14.9%. So it's respectable. It's not the usual rocket fuel that I generally tend to make, but it's in a respectable range. That having been said, let's go ahead and pour a glass. There we go. I'll make it a respectable amount instead of the amount that I'll probably be drinking after this video is over and done with, but that's enough for tasting. On the onset, you can just tell by feel, it's got a little bit of a weight to it. It's got some body. Might want to call it viscosity or whatever, but it's not thin by any means, which is something I like. I don't like really thin wines, or I guess now thin meads. In terms of aroma, smell first, commoners, really, three things. One, first thing that hits you is the alcohol, which at 14.9%, kind of surprising, but it's the first thing you smell. The next thing you smell is the honey, and then the aroma of the orange, the citrus aroma of the orange. Yep. All three kind of balance themselves out. However, the alcohol is the first thing you smell. Okay. I'm just saying. Let's see. What on earth does it taste like? They say you always remember your very first mead. Well, my very first mead. Let's see how memorable this is going to be. By the way, whenever you see me turn my head so you can actually see me drinking it, it's just so that you can actually see me drinking it, okay? And not just trying to fake my way through it. Interesting. Interesting. What I'm finding interesting about it, that first good drink, never mind sip, is that the alcohol, the honey, and the citrus notes are all almost equally balanced. So there's a fourth thing too, but I'll bring that up in just a second. We're almost equally balanced. You can tell there's alcohol in it. There's no doubt about that. But the honey and the citrus are kind of equally matched. It's not like the honey is not overpowering like it is when you first take like a teaspoon of honey and you drink it or taste it. And the citrus is not overwhelming as well. In fact, I'm actually detecting more citrus notes in this than I do in my that orange wine that I made. There is a fourth element. Yep. No difference between this mead and the wines that I've made that are at a very early stage, 6 months, 7 months. They're not done, okay? I mean, they're drinkable, but they're not done. This said harshness, the malolactic fermentation has not yet been completed. I mean, it can bottle age and that'll work itself out. But no, probably 12 months for this one mead before it's finally ready. 7 months is not quite ready for this thing yet. It's ready for tonight, but it's not going to be ready to open up the other 4 bottles. It's got a very soft finish to it. The sweetness is, the way I back sweetened it, it's coming in at, I won't say it's semi-dry. It's a little bit more sweeter than semi-dry, but it's not a sweet wine by any means. I mean, it'll be okay at the sweetness level. I think I back sweetened it more or less okay. I always err on the side of conservancy as opposed to trying to produce a dessert wine, which is not what I'm trying to do. When you inhale while drinking and you get the full effect, you get all of the aromas and plus the taste. The taste would be perfect were it not for the harshness at the back end. I don't want to even say it's at the back end. It's from the beginning to end, which signifies that this ain't done yet. It's done enough for tonight, like I said before, but it's not done yet. Yeah, give it 12 months and this will probably be perfect. It's not bad at all, quite frankly. It's definitely drinkable. Yep. So there we go, my very first mead. One last thought. Let's see, next video is going to be the live stream number 10, during which I'm going to have a special guest. No is going to join me in that one. So until this weekend, look forward to seeing you there. See you then.